glorious new AMG Coupe body shape that Mercedes have adopted for 2016. Maximilian Goertz alongside then. Interestingly, how Mercedes in press conferences before round number 1 was saying they'd had a very, very hard winter because they're having to adapt this new body style and get the aero to work. They were underplaying their chances at Hockenheim. Well, we know what happened, and well, we will see what will happen here at the Red Bull Ring for qualifying then, as I say, for race 1 to come today. The all-new DTM with 2 races across the course of a weekend as we look into the Bruno backstage garage and the BMW Bank livery which adorns the Bruno Spengler car, the M4 DTM. So Bruno Spengler then, the BMW driver that we look at there, and fastest in free practice, Mike Rockenfeller, and we can see that car now, the number 99. Former champion, of course, Mike Rockenfeller, one of a big number of former champions in the grid.
He was the man that was fastest in the final free practice session, one of the 7 champions in the history of the DTM on the grid. It remains a hugely competitive championship, and Mike Rockenfeller, like a number of them, is going to be on duty in the Nürburgring 24 hours in a week's time. But in the second session this morning, the previous one was yesterday afternoon, it was Audi, Rockenfeller from Scheider, then Max Goertz ahead of Tom Blomqvist, who had been quickest in the practice session yesterday. Edo Mortara, then Jamie Green, Adrian Tombe, Danny Juncadella for 8th, and no lap time recorded at all by Gary Paffett, the car expiring on the circuit. A
point I made to you whilst we were watching the free practice is that, you know, you and I wouldn't have had a euro on the fact that probably Maximilian Goertz and Juncadella would be the quickest of the 2 Mercedes, or the quickest 2 of the Mercedes brand.
But free practice is always very hard to call because you never know quite what program people are working through, trying different things. Now we're going to get a better indication of exactly who's hot and who's not.
Yes.
Yeah. We are good to go. The session, remember, is only 20 minutes. It's everybody out at the same time. It's not like the old knockout system of a couple of years ago. So you've got to manage the traffic. You probably get 2 runs at it, granted, but we're good to go. And we've got about 30 seconds before the lights will blink to green.
The other thing is, whatever everyone learns from qualifying, there's not an awful lot of time between qualifying and the race to come a little later today.
No, because race 1 comes up towards the end of the afternoon. It's the shorter race, the 40-minute race, plus a lap. There's Timo Scheider now getting ready to go as the new tyres go on. And Ron Wickens, who's, of course, the other driver involved with Timo Scheider in the infamous push-him-out snooker move incident of 12 months ago. I love the way that press releases are written for manufacturers as well, because Ron Wickens is quoted as talking about that, in which he talks about my good friend Timo Scheider. It wasn't my good friend when we were here last year, I promise you. Right, qualifying is underway for round 3 of DTM for 2016.
So we will see how they go then. 20 minutes on the clock, that's all they get. As David has quite rightly said, it's not this shootout that we used to have, this qualifying for the race to come later today. Weather conditions absolutely perfect here at the Red Bull Ring as the cars make their way out of the pit lane onto the track here. This 4.3 kilometre circuit at the Red Bull Ring, which is very, very undulating, as you can see as we look down from turn number 2. The Remus turn then as Mike Rockenfeller goes through, then going through the number 22 car of Lucas Auer and Christian Vitoris, of course, wearing exactly the same paint scheme across season 2016. The rest of the cars making their way out of the pit lane now to join in the fun, as it were. Martin Tomczyk, there's Nico Müller.
So at Hockenheim, you had 2 different pole position drivers, Nico Müller and Paul de Resta. Prediction for pole position for this, please.
I'm not going to give you one. I'm sorry. I'm not going to give you a prediction.
You coward.
Yes, I am a coward, but that's what's great about DTM, because we, you know, if we were to take it out of free practice, you're right. You know, we don't know what loads of people were, how they were doing, what the strategy was during free practice. Very, very difficult to call. What I will say is very, very impressive for me at Hockenheim, Paul de Resta and that Mercedes to take a P4 and a win.
Yeah, and I was thinking Nico Müller had done a good job. He had a podium in race 1 after his pole position, because he was a little bit modest last year in his first season in the DTM, still finding his feet a little bit, but Müller got better and better as the year went on and was quick at the season opener. Tom Blomqvist, of course, has won here in Formula 3 in the past. He was quick yesterday in free practice, so he's going to offer you up the benchmark time, assuming he stays out to the end of this lap. Others will, in some cases, go on to a flying lap. In other cases, they may well come in and cross tyres over, just do a swap.
I was having a conversation with Robert Wickens yesterday, who was saying that the track was quicker than last year for Robert, so we'll see what he can do and deliver. Robert Wickens then.
Yeah, it's a different time of year. I mean, we are slightly earlier, so temperatures are a little bit cooler, but is that going to have much of an impact? It has been resurfaced,
yes,
which would perhaps be part and parcel of that reason. So you've got Tom Blom out on track, BMW ambassador, and making his way up towards the end of the lap then. So the son of World Rally champion Stig Blomqvist works his way out of the Red Bull Mobile Curve. He was a winner at Ossersleben last year, and of course we don't go there this season, so different calendar for this year, going back to Budapest. Over the timing line, Blomqvist then offers the target time of 1:24.162, a 1:23.5, the best out of the final practice session, Mike Rockenfeller's time from earlier on. Max Goetz already into the 23s, 23.6, there he is.
So Maximilian Goetz then, at the moment, is the quickest. Very early stages of this, although after saying that, 3.5 minutes of it gone already. It's a very short, sharp session, isn't it, which sets the grid for race number 1. Augusto Farfus then around the final turn then, the BMW star, Augusto Farfus, Gusto, as he heads towards the timing line. He goes quickest with a 1:23.544.
But Tom Blomqvist on his next lap, and of course he's ahead of everybody in terms of tyre level and temperature level. He has done the absolute best in Sector 1. Timo Glock you're riding with, well, inevitably he's done a personal best in the first sector, but an absolute best in 2 and 3, so he goes top of the times, 1:23.2, so we're already below the practice session times, and there's more to give in this session, so we should be in the mid to high 22s by the very end. Blomqvist then, 2 absolute bests as the tyre temperatures come up, and there, in Red Bull colours for this year, is former champion Marco Wittmann.
So Marco Wittmann then rounds the final turn and heads for the timing line. As you've rightly said, former champion Marco Wittmann goes P2 with a 1:23.252. So Timo Glock's time 1:23.243, currently the fastest. Not now, as Tom Blom does it, a 1:22.814, 3 purple sectors.
Absolutely, so that's the perfect lap. So Blomqvist, Glock, Wittmann, Tomczyk, Martin, Farfus, BMW top 6. Now bear in mind, they've had a top 3 here in the past. They know how to lock out results, does BMW, and they had the top 4 here. In fact, I think it was in 2014. So they've had some very, very good results, not just in terms of wins, but as a brand, as an entity, as a very formidable force in seasons past. Now, Marco Wittmann has just done the absolute best in Sector 1. You're looking at 22, Lukas Auer, the local driver, Gerhard Berger's nephew, the Austrian then, and Paul de Resta, who is 16th thus far, working his way out of turn 3, heading downhill, speed building. And we were talking early on about the body shape of the car for this year, but if you go inside, it looks nothing like a Mercedes that you can buy and take down the motorway.
You're right. But boy, doesn't it look good.
Indeed so. Wittmann, 2 absolute bests in the sectors. Here he comes. This should, barring a mistake in the last couple of corners, put him top. The car looks spectacular with the sparks flying from underneath. So the M4 heading up towards the timing line now. The time to beat is a 22.8, so where can Marco Wittmann get the time to? It's a 22.7, he goes fastest, so Marco Wittmann 1:22.795. But Timo Glock is the next one to look for. Glock's 5th and has done an absolute best Sector 1, Dave.
And you have one more flying lap afterwards.
So Glock then, one more flying lap afterwards. 21.6 Sector 1.
Yeah, he's got this and one more on that set of tyres. He can have another go, obviously, on the second set, but there's a yellow flag out. So that's going to affect people.
Turn 6, yellow flag, turn 6.
So yes, Team Radio confirming that.
Turn 6 is the Verth corner at the bottom of the hill.
All clear.
So that's going to affect live. Farfus, in the meantime, has done an absolute best. Hopefully he was ahead of the yellow flag, otherwise he'll be in strife. And Farfus, 5th at the start of the lap, ends the lap 5th, because he backed off in the last sector. Yes, so he'd seen the yellows and lifted.
So the way it is at the moment, Wittmann, Blomqvist and de Resta, they're the 3 drivers that are sub 1:23.
At the foot of the times at the moment are the 2 ART cars, Ocon and Paffett. And there is one that's not gone out, which I think is Vitoris. So 1 car yet to go.
You're right, it is Vitoris.
There is Maxime Martin, 5th at the moment, 2 absolute bests for the Belgian driver, who was back on GT duty for BMW last weekend in the Rover racing car in the Endurance Cup from Rockpound at Silverstone. And is as mighty as ever. Comes up over the timing line. Where does he go? Goes third. So Wittmann, Blomqvist, Martin, De Resta fourth, and Martin Tomczyk fifth at the moment.
So BMW locking out the first three then.
And 5 out of 6, 6 out of 7.
Okay.
Adrian Tombe, 8th at the moment.
So you can see on the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen, the brand indicators as well. BMW occupying the top 3 places. We're with Matthias Ekström, who can focus fully on his DTM duties this weekend. You'll recall at Hockenheim, he was not only performing in DTM, but also in Rallycross as well, where he was successful, it has to be said. And he's gone on and had further success in Rallycross ahead of
he won again last weekend, didn't he?
DTM round.
On the final. So at the moment, he is in... Adrian Tombe goes third. Yeah, Matthias Ekström, he's 9th in the DTM Championship, but leads the World Rallycross Championship. And he was a winner here last year. He'd never been on the podium here, which was odd given the Red Bull backing, Red Bull circuit, but he had a win in the second race.
One more lap.
That was the race that started wet and dried out a little bit. He was under pressure from Gary Paffett. Behind him is the man that won the first race here last year as well, Eduardo Mortara. So through goes Ekström. He's up to 8th now. Lost out a bit in the last sector. Wittmann is the quickest, and we told you that, 1:22.795. Then Blomqvist, then Adrian Tombe, third. Which we'd seen on the sectors. Glock, Martin, De Resta, Tomczyk, Ekström, Da Costa giving up Formula E duty for something noisier this weekend, and then Spengler 10th. That's the order.
As we watch Jamie Green.
Yeah, now Jamie was very unlucky last year, wasn't he? Because he led the first race and then at the end of the opening lap had an electrical gearbox problem that meant that he was a retirement, and it was then that his season sort of unravelled a little bit. He is 16th at the moment.
So we continue to watch Jamie Green then around the final turn. And crosses the timing line, improves 3 places. But
okay, box, slow in lap, box, slowish in lap.
being told to box. We've got 10.5 minutes left in this session, the session that Marco Wittmann leads with Tom Blomqvist P2 and Adrian Tombe P3.
I like the concept of a slow-ish in lap. Please yourself, Yogi. Right, so Wittmann, Blomqvist, Tombe, the order. Now, Gary Paffett, 23rd. Why has Vitoris not been out yet? Christian Vitoris has yet to go. Are they saving a set of tyres to send him out at the very end?
Possibly.
He's not got a grid drop that's going to put him to the back of the grid, has he? And therefore there's no point sending him out.
To my knowledge.
No. Okay. There is a bit of activity in his garage, just looking out of the window. So I think he might be on his way soon.
So we're watching some super slow-mos here of the sparks flying off the Gusto Farfus car.
There is Vitoris.
So yeah, the engineers around the car. Seemingly that is going to be released out of the garage pretty soon.
Mortara in the meantime up to 4th fastest now, and also being an improver in the first sector. The Castrol Edge car. The first corner, turn 1, is the Castrol Edge corner. So there's a link between the end of the lap into turn 1 when he breaks the timing line of the car you're looking at. So how's the lap doing? He's lost quite a lot of time in the second sector, and he will hit this time.
It will be a very short turnaround, 1 minute 20.
Because there's only under 9 minutes of the session to go, and you've got to get your new set of tyres on, if that's what you're going to run, and you've got to get them up to temperature.
It's the first time, fucking hell.
And you've got to then go for a time. So, yeah, 20 minutes does put the emphasis on everybody delivering straight away, doesn't it? The pressure is on.
Yes, it is. All the way through the team, isn't it? More sparks flying then on the super slow-mos of Antonio Felix da Costa. New livery for his car this year. And the Paul de Resta car there. What have we got? Just over 8 minutes left in this session. And as you quite rightly predicted, Christian Vitoris, who has not made an appearance yet, does now make an appearance into this qualifying session.
So it's going to be one run and therefore just use one set of tyres,
yeah,
which might be a strategic move for the race. So out he goes. But is he going to stay out and do a run, or would they do an installation lap and bring him back in? Because if they're going to do that, they're squandering more time, because he's going to be later into the run. Well, we'll see. But this might be a good move either way, because, of course, at the moment, he's got a pretty clear track, so he doesn't have to worry about traffic as such. Timo Scheider just came back out, Bruno Spengler going back out. Most people had pitted. New sets of boots going on. There's Gary Paffett, who is 23rd at the moment, which of those that have set a time puts him the slowest. But don't expect him to stay there.
Esteban Ocon, I can see just disappearing out of the garage as well from the commentary position here.
Miguel Molina is ready to go.
Also going out from the garage I can see is Robert Wickens, there's Timo Glock. So everyone out for their final runs then.
Yeah, the circuit getting busier, but Christian Vitor is hoping that he's ahead of them.
Exactly.
Because he'll be on a flying lap as everybody else is on an installation lap. But that means that while he's on a quick lap, he's got to get through traffic going at a slower speed. So it might count against him, this. Might not be as perfectly well timed as he would have hoped. So up towards turn one he goes. Now, for the first time, Vitoris is onto a quick lap.
He is, and he's going to meet traffic, isn't he?
Yeah.
So there is Vitoris, as you can see, cars ahead. But as David has rightly said, they're effectively on an installation lap, whereas Vitoris is on a hot lap here. I think he's we've got 6 minutes left of the session remaining. Perhaps the plan to get him out into clean air didn't quite work out.
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, anything is a bonus because there's no time for him at the moment, so he's going to start at the back. So as long as he's not 24th, he's gained something out of this. But ideally, he would like either a clear circuit or everybody going at qualifying pace, which they won't be in some cases until the end of the lap. 5.5 minutes to go. So who are those that are out of position, really? Well, Gary Paffett, inevitably, because 23rd is a long way down. But 18th only Mike Rockenfeller, 17th only Robert Wickens, 16th double champion Timo Scheider, Jamie Green is 14th. Again, you've got so many good drivers, they can't all be in that top six as an example. Something has to give, but there are a few people further down than you might anticipate.
Yes, we're looking at Bruno Spengler, who's currently only P11. So the BMW bank car that you can see there, Bruno Spengler, sparks flying off the front splitter on that car. Takes a bit of curve and some, to be fair. It was Wittmann then with his 1:22.795, which is the fastest time thus far, and just put him P1. So here comes Bruno Spengler to the timing line now. And 1:23.193 means he moves nowhere. We're under 5 minutes left to run in this qualifying session, which sets the grid for race one. Here comes Gary Paffett then in the ART engineered car. 21.9 sector 1, 37.4 sector 2 for the Gary Paffett machine.
It's going to be an improvement, I would have hoped, but how far up the order, we'll see in a moment, because he runs wide over the curb up towards the timing line. He'll get at least 2 more laps out of this, and is it an improvement? It keeps him 23rd. You've been talking about that lap of Wittmann's, a 22.7. The lap record, which I know is a race time, Mike Rockenfeller at 1:25.2. So they're massively under that. Development pushes on, doesn't it, all the time in the DTM. Last year, we didn't get a new lap record because of the weather conditions in the Sunday race, especially, and it was very hot on the Saturday. But in slightly cooler air, the time's in the 22s. Right, Timo Scheider on a mission. And again, losing out of the middle sector. Timo is 16th. He was a winner at the end of last year, wasn't he, after a pretty difficult season.
3 more laps.
Through he goes, and that lap time is a 24.4 as against a 23.2 from earlier, so no improvement. How's Lucas Auer doing? He's dropped down to 20th now. So we're getting sector improvements, but not lap improvements as yet.
So, as you look at Tom Blomqvist.
Best sector 2.
Yeah.
Nothing in sector 3, so not an improvement. He's 19 thousandths down at the moment.
So a pair of BMWs, pair of Audis, pair of BMWs before we get to the first Mercedes, which is Paul di Resta in P7 at the moment, and we've got under 3 minutes left to run.
As yet, nobody on a second set of tyres is really delivering. Esteban Ocon's up to 21st and Gary Paffett's up to 22nd. He's only gained 1 place.
2 more laps.
2 more laps for Christian Vittorius. Maximilian Goertz goes way, way wide. And that was looking like a reasonably good lap. So from 13th, I'm afraid it's unravelled with that mistake in the last sector. Goes over the timing line, stays 13th. Nobody's going purple other than Blomqvist from earlier, but Tom started the next lap and lost out in sector 1.
Right.
So for most people, this second run is not achieving anything, is it? What about Da Costa? 11th he was, 2 personals up to 7th. 2 personal bests, lost out a bit in the last sector, but 7th he moves up there. Still looking good for BMW, this.
It is, with Wittmann at the moment unbeaten with his 1:22.795. We put the clock on Martin Tomczyk now, who was P9. 21.688 through the first sector. So Martin Tomczyk then. Just see the Robert Wickens Mercedes ahead. Where's Robert Wickens at the moment? Down there in P17. So Tomczyk with a 36.8 in sector 2. So Wittmann, Blomqvist, Tombe, Eduardo Mortara, then it's Glock, Martin da Costa, di Resta, Tomczyk, Ekstrom. The top 10 at the moment. Here comes Martin Tomczyk then. Not sure this is going to be an improvement.
Last lap, last lap.
1 more lap, because under a minute left. So anyone that crosses the timing line before the clock runs down can get another lap in.
1 more lap, 1 more lap.
Jean Cadea being given the message, breaks the timing beam. That is an improvement for him. Goes up to 15th fastest, which he needed to do. So still Gary Paffett's only 23rd. I said he wouldn't stay there. Well, he had got to 22nd, but with Jean Cadea improving, Gary clearly still with trouble. Second in the second race here last year. It's not been a good day, has it? Is this a legacy of the problems of free practice for Paffett still?
Possibly.
Right, Muller is 14th, personal best, but he's lost out in the middle sector to the tune of 0.3 of a second. So it's going to be hard to pull that back, I would have thought. But he might just get 1 more lap here because he's going to be close to the wire, but I think he'll just escape as he comes up towards the line before the flag comes out. Yeah, he's gone through, he's got 1 more lap out of it, and he needs it because that was no improvement. Flag out.
On board with Robert Wickens now.
And just quickly to say, Dave, that Paffett has pitted, so no chance of an improvement from 23rd.
Robert Wickens then, his middle sector didn't look brilliant, did it?
No.
He does improve 5 places though, sector 1 and sector 3. So that means that Rob Wickens is P13.
And there's a yellow flag because somebody's run wide at the Wirth corner on the last lap of the session. Yellow's gone in again, so somebody ran wide briefly. We're back to a green flag. Timo Scheider bails from a lap that had 2 good sectors, so maybe he got caught up in it somewhere or decided that it wasn't worth persevering for 1 more corner. Either way, Scheider pits and he will go from 18th provisionally. Is this the answer to the yellow flag? On board with Robert Wickens. Using all of the road. Does he use a bit too much? We don't see.
It's good to see from that shot the left foot braking being used. Well, there we are, qualifying done. 1:22.795 from Marco Wittmann then. Gives us our pole sitter, Tom Blomqvist, Adrian Tombe. Very, very good qualifying from Tombe with a P3 with a 1:22.903 as we see the Esteban Ocon car down the pit lane. Here comes the Timo Glock machine.
And Marco Wittmann, a 6th career pole, winner here 2 years ago. Champion that year. And we'll, in a moment, start to discuss race strategy with the team. Good effort for Adrian Tombe.
Yeah, very good. And there's Gary Paffett walking away, and you were talking earlier about drivers out of position, perhaps. Paffett down there, P23, Jamie Green, P18.
So, a Red Bull-backed car on pole position at the Red Bull Ring. Works out nicely.
Who'd have thought it?
Marco Wittmann rising to the occasion.
So there is our pole sitter for race 1, which comes up a little bit later today. There's not much time for the drivers and the teams between now and the start of the race. Here's qualifying for race 3 in full for you. Marco Wittmann and Tom Blomqvist, then P1 and P2. Then we see Adrien Tombe, Edo Mortara, Timo Glock, Maxime Martin, Antonio Felix da Costa, Best Mercedes, Paul di Resta, P8. Then it's Tomczyk, Ekstrom, Farfus, Maximilian Goertz, before we see Robert Wickens, Bruno Spengler, Nico Muller, Daniel Juncadella, Mike Rockenfeller, Jamie Green, Timo Scheider, Lucas Auer. Then it's Molina, Ocon, Paffett, and Vitoris. The strategy of running Christian right at the very end of the session not working, that's for sure. So, interesting qualifying session. As we take a look at the top 3, some super slow-mos. Adrien Tombe then in the Audi RS5 DTM. It's P3 for him on the grid for race number 1. Former F3 winner here, Tom Blomqvist. He's given himself a front row start for the Ice Watch BMW M4 DTM because he will go from P2. And former champion Marco Wittmann, a 1:22.795. You can see the time at the right-hand side of the graphics. For the Red Bull BMW M4 DTM, pole position. And delight on the RMG bench. Dominic there, Marco Wittmann's race engineer, and there the man himself. So Wittmann, Blomqvist and Tombe, the 1, 2, 3 in that qualifying session. 2 races across every weekend of DTM action. And here comes the grid in full for you. Front row, Marco Wittmann and Tom Blomqvist. 2 BMWs lock out that front row. Then we see Adrien Tombe and Eduardo Mortara on the second row of the grid. It's Timo Glock and Maxime Martin with another BMW lockout on the next row. Before it's Antonio Felix da Costa and the first of the Mercedes to show, going from P8, it's going to be Paul di Resta. Martin Tomczyk and Matthias Ekstrom side by side, P9 and P10. Then it's Augusto Farfus and Maximilian Goertz on the 6th row of the grid for race 1 later this afternoon. Then we see Robert Wickens and Bruno Spengler. Nico Muller and Daniel Juncadella. Nico Muller, of course, taking his maiden pole position at Hockenheim. No luck at the Red Bull Ring in that regard. Mike Rockenfeller and Jamie Green going from P17 and P18. Then we see Timo Scheider and Lucas Auer. It's Miguel Molina and Esteban Ocon on the 11th row, and then bringing up the rear is 2 Mercedes cars, Gary Paffett and Christian Vitoris. That's the grid for race number 1. And now the track will be prepared for that race number 1, which comes up in just a while. 2 races across the DTM weekend now. The short race to come later today when temperatures will have dropped still a bit further. And then the longer race to come with a mandatory pit stop tomorrow. So qualifying for some not going the way that would be expected. Certainly Gary Paffett and Jamie Green may be out of position. So too Mike Rockenfeller and
Jamie Green and Timo Scheider and Bruno Spengler as well. So yeah, it's going to be a fascinating grid, isn't it, as we look forward to race 1 of the weekend coming up in a couple of hours' time. The best bits of qualifying coming right up. David Anderson and Dave Richardson back a little bit later on. Bye for now.